everyone, this is Mr. Pete, and we are about to start part 7 of the one and only Bob. We are right in the middle of the action. We left off in part 6 with Bob standing in the wolf domain right in front of Kemu the wolf, who is fighting his instincts, I think, not to attack Bob, but he's definitely pondering it, and that's where we left off. Gorilla world. I move. I have to find my friends. Have to. But where am I? I leap over another mangled signpost with bent arrows. One way to Reptileville. One way to Lion Island. I pass the mangrove swamp. A manatee pokes up her head, draped with Spanish moss, like a silly wig. 2 workers in yellow raincoats trot past me. One has a bloody bandage on his cheek. I need to stop, regroup. Cool it, Bob, I tell myself. I'm panicking. Not taking in the right data. I try to blot out all the horrible smells, all the awful noise. I concentrate, let my nose do the real work. A whiff of something familiar. Gorilla? It has to be gorilla. Full run now. I cut my back left paw on a shard of glass. Trip, fall hard on my nose and cut it too. Dripping blood, I carry on. Find them, find them, find them. A massive old oak lies on its side at the entrance to Gorilla World. Huge tangled roots grope into the air like frozen snakes. And just beyond where Ivan lives is nothing but devastation. Like I said, the suspense won't stop. No ending to the Kemu story, though. That should, as a reader, make you go, Help us! The stone wall separating Gorilla World and Elephant Odyssey is gone. Pieces of both domains mingle, an elephant toy here, a gorilla nest there, part of the indoor gorilla space is crumbled to the ground. I scan the area where Ruby and her herd like to hang out. Nothing. No gorillas either. So here we have, remember, the elephant domain and the gorilla domain are side by side, and now there's really nothing separating them but that moat. But Bob can't see a thing. Out of nowhere, the rain picks up, coming sideways, blinding me. The wind howls like a hurt dog. Simile, irony. This storm isn't over, not by a long shot. I leap over a pile of cement blocks, catch my hurt foot on something sharp, yelp, keep going. Here's that keep going, keep going, keep going. Remember, Bob doesn't think he is a hero. Character trait. Ivan, I call. Ruby! Nothing. I get to a slight rise, leap onto another overturned tree, and try to make sense of the damage. Red and blue lights cut through the rain. Police, fire engines. Good. We need all the help we can get. I take in several lungfuls of the hideous air. It's too wet, too full of conflicting odors, a mishmash of scents I can't decipher, especially with my busted nose. The wind gathers speed, pushing at me with incredible force. Feels like it'll tear my ears right off my sore noggin. I can barely stay upright. Wind like that, storm wind, doesn't carry scent. It obliterates it. While it obliterates scent, there was plenty of imagery prior to that. Help us! Help us! It's a tiny, desperate voice. Maybe even Ruby's voice. Kudzu. I pick my way through the debris, trying to lock on the sound. It ain't easy. Please help us! Climbing over the remains of the wall, the one I was sitting on what seems like moments ago, I find myself at the bank of the moat. Ruby, I call at the top of my lungs. Uncle Bob! The sound of my name cuts through the gloom like a shaft of sun. Simile. Ruby runs to the opposite edge of the water. She's maybe 8 feet away, but I can barely make her out in the torrential rain. You stay there, I yell, trying to be heard over the wind. I'll come to you. So again, just time to kind of picture this setting. And there is a third part to setting that I didn't talk about last week. You have time and place, but there's a third part to setting that's super important, and that's atmosphere. So right now, we have lost time. The storm has hit, and it almost seems like everything's like right together. Bob is literally saying, it seems like just seconds ago I was sitting on the wall, and it may have been. We don't know time because so much is happening. But the atmosphere, this rain that's sideways, that's coming down so hard, 8 feet away from me to the camera, he can barely see Ruby. And Ruby's an elephant. And not a small elephant anymore, like she's growing up. So there's an atmosphere to this setting where the place right now is the space between the gorilla pen and the elephant pen, and the atmosphere is this torrential rain, this storm, this suspense, all of this mood that's making us feel scared. I follow the bank until I come to a spot where several chunks of the wall have tumbled into the water. 3 careful leaps and I'm across. Ruby runs to greet me. She wraps her mud-coated trunk around my neck, and boy, oh boy, am I happy to see that sweet little elephant. You hurt, Ruby? I ask. Is everyone all right? Ruby sniffles. Yes, but come quick. She dashes off before I can ask anything more. 5 of Ruby's aunts stand by the elephant side of the moat. Each one has her trunk plunged deep in the dark, muddy water. They look like a bunch of kids trying to find a lost toy in a swimming pool. It's almost funny until I see what they're reaching for. Baby gorilla is in the moat. The tiny gal keeps grabbing for a trunk to hold on to, then slipping free. Her terrified screeches fill the air. It's Kudzu, Ivan's favorite. Reminded him of Tag. An idea. I'm going in, says Masika, one of the younger aunts. Might make things worse, Akello cautions. Displace the mud, pull her down toward the bottom. I could go in, I suggest, the words popping out before I can swallow them. Again, Bob, he never, ever wants to step in and do the right thing. It's more mud than water, Bob. Akello shakes her head. You'll get as stuck as Kudzu. I don't exactly argue the point. I've got an idea, comes a small voice. All the aunties turn to Ruby, and she looks startled to have their complete attention. A couple of us get on the other side of the moat, Ruby says. Grab trunks. We'll make like a, what do you call it? A sling, I exclaim. A hammock, like the gorillas have. I don't know, Ruby. Akello sounds doubtful. Kudzu grabs for Masika's trunk with both hands. Wait, Masika says. Think I've got her this time. Masika lifts her trunk with deliberate slowness, carefully trying to support the baby gorilla, but once again, Kudzu can't hold on. She lets out a despairing cry. Down she goes, lower this time, her nose and eyes just visible. Despairing, great vocabulary word. Okay, Akello says with a nod to Ruby. Let's give Ruby's idea a try. Masika, Laheli, Elodie, cross over the far side. Zaina, Ruby, and I will take this side. By the way, Akello is definitely kind of taking up that role that Stella had in The One and Only Ivan. All 3 elephants move with surprising quickness to the spot where I crossed. They gallop back until they're facing us. It's strange to see them on the other side of the moat with the wall destroyed. They're technically in Ivan and Kenyana's domain. Move down a bit, Akello instructs. That way. She motions with her head. We want to scoop her out, not push her down. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. The elephants reach out for each other's trunks, creating a kind of cradle. Metaphor. Okay now, says Akello. Lower carefully. Down they go into the muddy water. Ruben nearly loses her footing, so I grab her tail with my teeth. Doesn't really help, and she yelps, Ouch! But my heart's in the right place. Kudzu thrashes her tiny arms. Stay calm, I call. Easy for me to say. She looks over at me, and I'll never forget the fear in her dark eyes. Then she vanishes below the surface.
Team Elephant.
Hurry! Ruby cries. The elephants bend lower, moving like a giant elephant shovel. Where is she? Masika asks. Lower, says Akello. Lower, sisters. There, Ruby yells. No, wait, there! Up! Akello commands, and the interlocking trunks rise from the muddy water to reveal a tiny, trembling baby gorilla sitting in their makeshift sling. Kudzu, says Akello. Stay calm, baby. We're going to toss you to safety, okay? Kudzu gives a little nod. On my count, says Akello. Start swinging. 1, 2, 3. Up and over go the trunks, and up and over goes Kudzu. She lands with a little plop on the gorilla side of the moat, right next to Masika's rear legs. Good work, everyone, says Akello. And good thinking, Ruby. Thanks, elephants, says Kudzu, wiping mud from her eyes. That was fun. Can we do it again? Akello takes a deep breath. Maybe later, sweetheart. Quickly, I make my way back over the moat. Kudzu, I say, follow me. Let's go find your 8 peeps. Can I go with Bob? Ruby asks Akello. Akello touches Ruby's back with her trunk. I'd much rather have you stay here, dear. And it's may I. But Uncle Ivan, Ruby pleads. I'll keep an eye on her, I tell Akello. I'm going, Ruby says in her most determined voice. Maybe I can help. I helped just now. Akello hesitates, but finally gives a slow nod. Probably she figures there's no arguing with Ruby. She's right on that one. Ruby crosses the moat and joins Kudzu and me. Be careful, Akello warns. There's more of this storm coming. I got her, Akello, I say. You better have her, she warns. I think I flew, Bob, says Kudzu as we weave our way through the wasteland that was Gorilla World. Yeah, me too, I say. It's that kind of day. What's out there? A handful of humans, firefighters and police mostly, have begun to roam the grounds, checking out the damage. We pass a park employee with a weapon slung over his shoulder and a net in one hand. Trank gun, he tells a passing police officer. We don't know what's out there. She nods. How fast do they work? On something like a big cat, he shakes his head. Not fast enough. I look over at Ruby. Stay close, kid. As we near the gorilla villa, what's left of it anyways, a screech hits my ears that makes the wailing police sirens sound like mewling kittens. It's Kenyani. She's frantically knuckle running back and forth near the collapsed gorilla villa. Chunks of cement, shredded wooden beams, and bent metal lie everywhere. A cluster of gorilla females and juveniles huddle not far from some rescue workers. There's Mama! Kudzu cries, dashing toward a gorilla named Jody. I'm so horrified by the destruction that I've almost forgotten my muddy little charge. I really shouldn't be trusted as an ape sitter. Kudzu darts over to her mother's waiting embrace. Joda nuzzles her and strokes her and says soothing, motherly gorilla things. Thank you, Joda mouths to me. Don't thank me, I say, looking over at Ruby. Thank this little gal. She figured out how to save Kudzu. Thank you. Ruby, isn't it? Ivan's friend? Ruby gives a shy nod. We all helped. I provided moral support, I add. I flew, Mama, says Kudzu. Of course you did, dear, says Jody. Kenyana's fresh wails focus my mind. I gotta go, I say. Ruby, you should stay here. I'm going for a no-nonsense voice. The one Julia uses on me when she calls me Robert. Let me see what's what. I'll be right back. No way, Uncle Bob, Ruby replies, just as firmly. I give up, but I'm afraid of what she might see, of what we both might see. Any sign of Ivan? I ask Jody. She shakes her head, a grim look clouding her eyes. With Ruby by my side, we approach the pile of wreckage that used to be the Gorilla Villa. At the same moment, Ruby and I gasp. There's Ivan's hand, barely peeking through the rubble. Not moving. I know that hand like the back of my own paw. No! Ruby screams. Uncle Ivan! I check the crowd. No signs of Julia or George. Nothing. No Maya either, or other keepers I recognize. Just a few employees, several rescue workers, and 2 or 3 dazed-looking visitors. Is he alive? A firefighter asks. Hand, whatever it's called, isn't moving, says another. Weaving my way through the tangle of legs, I climb up the rubble pile, sniff a bit, and bark my loudest. Yes, he's alive! Get your rears in the gear, bark! Just like those overachieving rescue dogs in Man's Best Friend show. I listen for a sound from Ivan, a grunt, a cry for help. Nothing. Still, he smells alive. At least I think he does, and that's good enough for me. Xena. Another dog races over, a tough-looking German shepherd wearing an impressive glow-in-the-dark vest and some booted things to protect her feet from the rubble. But I hold my ground. This is my friend we're talking about. I lick Ivan's hand. His fingers twitch. Well, that's all it takes to get both of us barking like maniacs. More people gather. I see mine next to Ruby, which makes me feel better. Name's Xena, says the shepherd. Bob. I nudge Ivan's finger with my nose. Nothing. And this is Ivan, my best bud. Sorry to hear it, she replies, and I don't like the sound of her voice. With great care and far too slowly for my taste, rescue workers begin removing chunks of the wreckage and tossing them to one side. Xena and me, we mostly stay out of the way, but every so often I lick Ivan's hand just so he knows we've got him covered. I glance over at Maya and Ruby. Maya is wiping tears from her eyes while she strokes Ruby's ears. Ruby is giving Maya a comforting trunk hug. Good old Ruby, wise beyond her years, that gal. I check the crowd again. Still no sign of Julia or George, and that's when a sickening thought hits me like a bite to the belly. What if Ivan isn't the only one under the rubble? Dragon. More police cars and ambulances arrive at the park. A handful of keepers stream in, too, looking frantic and confused. The weirdest thing of all, wandering through all the destruction, are random park residents, animals, birds, reptiles. Residents who most definitely do not belong in gorilla world. A police officer is chasing an armadillo. A great blue heron watches the mayhem from her position atop a giraffe statue. A wallaby pokes his nose out of a bush, his saucer eyes catching the fire engine lights. Nets! Someone yells. We need more nets! An older gentleman holding a blue umbrella lets out a blood-curdling scream. Dragon! He cries. I swear to you, I just saw a baby dragon! Sir, says a keeper named Malik. No worries, that's actually a Gila monster. His name is Gilligan. A paramedic raises his hand. They have, like, venom, don't they? They say a healthy adult won't die from it, Malik shrugs, although they'll be in some serious pain. Wonderful, the paramedic mutters. I glance over my shoulder to see Sarah running toward Maya. I can't hear her words, but I can definitely see the worry in her eyes. Xena's ears tip forward. They're getting the cutters in the jaws of life. Jaws, I repeat. Don't like the sound of that. Spreads metal. They're probably getting close. Come on, we need to get out of the way. I ain't going anywhere. I hear ya, she says, and I can tell from the wary sound of her voice that she's had this conversation before. But the best thing for Ivan right now is to let the humans do their thing. I think about it. Figure she's right. I give his fingers one last lick. They don't move. Nothing. Nada. We pick our way to the bottom of the debris pile. Hang in there, Ivan, I call. We love you, buddy. I know it's crazy, but I listen anyways, hoping for a sign, any sign, that he's still with us. Suspense. Also the end of day 7. We're going to stop there. So, again, you can see that while Bob doesn't save Kadzoo, he does want to. He does participate, and he dives right into the gorilla pen, and he's right in the mix. So don't, again, let Bob convince you that he's not one of those hero dogs. He's doing everything he can. And you can see that the pace of this book is constant now. We haven't even really gotten to the bulk of this hurricane yet. And now Ivan is buried under rubble. Now, I do want to note that all of you in my class know Ivan, the real gorilla. And obviously the one and only Ivan was based on a real gorilla. Spoilers. So if you have not read the one and only Ivan and are reading this book, you want to stop right now. My class knows that Ivan passed away in real life. And he passed away from old age. However, this book, obviously, we're heading down the path of real fiction here. This may or may not have happened to the Atlanta Zoo. I'm not really sure. We'll do some research on that in between now and the end of this book. But we know that Ivan doesn't die from getting buried under rubble. That doesn't mean that that can't happen in this story at this point. Obviously in the one and only Ivan, the real Ivan didn't paint a sign to put on a billboard. So we are definitely in fantasy because all of these animals are talking to each other and we can hear them. So remember, we are in fiction land. While Ivan is a real gorilla, Catherine Applegate has taken that character and moved him into the fiction world. So just because we know how Ivan dies in real life, that doesn't mean that this version of Ivan is going to die the same way. So right now, you should really be feeling the suspense because he's not moving and he's buried under rubble. All right. Will we find out in day 8? Guess you'll have to come and find out. On to the next.